Hi, I'm Nazario, president of the Baker High School Alumni Association. And today we are also interviewing David Phillips. I almost called you by the wrong name.
That's okay.
David Phillips. And David was in the Army. And David, thanks for what you do, first of all. It's fantastic. You help us bring this to the people at home, and with good taste, professionalism. What made you join the service after high school?
I did. Well, actually, I didn't finish high school because I was a problem child. I had problems. I had a stepfather growing up, and he and I kind of butted heads. So the year I was supposed to, he put me back a year just to punish me, I think, because I was a class clown, but he put me back a year. So I should have graduated with the class of 76. So all my friends were class of 76, but I got put to 77. So my buddy, when he got ready to graduate, he was going to join. We were both in ROTC together. So he says, I'm going to join the Army. And I'm like, well, you know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and just get my GED and go ahead and join the Army too, because we were going to do all this and travel all the world. And so I joined the Army with him, and we went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma for our basic training. Never seen the snow before. Out there it snowed, and it's like we had a great time. And it was cold. It doesn't get that cold here in Columbus, but it got cold and it snowed and it was terrible out there and windy.
Let me ask you this though.
Sure.
So from here, did you have to go to Atlanta to the induction center?
Yes, we had to go for our physicals and our induction and all that. Atlanta, Georgia.
One thing that I remember about my physical up there, the induction, when we went in there and it was a captain. Mm-hmm. If you're against killing people, please step back. And then he gave 3 or 4 reasons, and I remember saying, if it says one more, I'm gonna walk out of here. But then what I remember was after it was over with and I walked out, there was this nice black gentleman there. He says, be a good soldier. You know what? I haven't forgotten that to this day. Anyway.
I had ROTC in high school. We had some really good instructors in high school, ROTC instructors. I mean, they were top notch. And I was on the drill team. So, I spent 3 years in high school ROTC. So automatically when I went in the Army, my buddy and myself, we were already E3s. We were PFC. So that was a good start over everybody else. And so we went through basic training.
The reason I'm making a face, when I had ROTC, but when I was just a private, E1 or whatever you are,
Well, they gave us some credit for the 3 years, because when I went to basic training, I mean, pretty much everything they taught us, you learned in ROTC. Land navigation, physical training, weapons. We qualified with weapons and everything. So we really already had that knowledge of it. So I was fortunate enough to graduate. Out of 253 men, I graduated #1 in my class. Being a high school dropout, that made me feel good. And my buddy, we joined the Army together, he got their marksmanship trophy. So we got it. We was in basic training. We both was standing up there in front of all of our peers getting awarded. And it made us feel good because we were Baker. We come out here and showed all these people we could do something better than they could.
That's great.
So my first duty station, I was supposed to go to Fort Stewart, Georgia, but I ended up getting stationed at Hunter Army Airfield, which is in Savannah. And so, being starch uniform, spit shine boots every day. That's what we had. Now they have brown boots, but back then we had spit shine boots. My sergeant major seen me one day and he says, young man, how would you like to drive for the general? I thought, drive for a general? That'd be great. Little did I know that was the worst job I could have ever taken. Prestigious-wise, it was good, but a lot of hurry up and wait and sitting around waiting. So I said, make this time to my advantage. I took correspondence courses and did all these courses and bettered myself. And so, eventually going down the road, I become a sergeant, and then I become a leader, and it's like you're in charge of people. And I said, I'd re-enlisted a couple times by then and been to different places, got sent to Korea, deployment to Korea, been sent to Germany, a couple times to Germany.
Whereabouts in Germany were you at?
The first time I was in Neu-Ulm, I was in a Pershing missile unit. Now I was communications now, but I found out one thing about being in communications. Infantry, armor, artillery, aviation, they all had the same radios, so you could get stuck in all the units. But I thought, well, what would I do in an infantry unit? I found out what I do in an infantry unit when I served with 10th Mountain Division. You're an infantry soldier with a radio on your back. so then I deployed with them over to Somalia twice. Well, with the 36, I went with the 36 engineer group, but I was battalion communications.
Sure. What kind of radio were you carrying?
Well, PRC 77, the same one probably, you had Prick 10 probably when you were in the Army.
PRC 10s, yeah.
10, well, that same radio become a Prick 77. After,
I know.
They just changed the number, but it was basically the same radio.
Just changing the story a little bit, I know about carrying those things. When we were in Iran, my battalion commander was a football team officer in charge, a colonel. And then, so when we went to Iran, he had to have his own party. Who did he pick? He's football players. We carrying the great big old long antenna.
Long antenna.
That thing is when you're going up and down hills, but we that was my on that.
The radio wasn't as heavy as. But you had to carry your own equipment, your own stuff in your bag. Plus, you had to carry spare batteries. That's what got heavy, because the radio only lasted so long. You had to have spare batteries, and it's like you're just loaded down with all this extra equipment and stuff. But I enjoyed my time in the military, And the same thing that this gentleman was talking about, when you go overseas, the people are very nice people. It's their governments that are that's controlling them. But in Somalia, the people were the first time I went over there, that's before the helicopter before Black Hawk Down. The people were just really super nice and very helpful. And then after that happened, there's some political things that happened over there that probably not nobody's business to know, but because the military, they keep everything hush hush. You see things being in the military that other people don't see, and you just have to keep it to yourself.
I've seen the same thing when I was in
doing that. First unit I ever went to, a guy goes, they're going to try to get you to get a driver's license. Don't get no driver's license. They'll call you for every duty you ever want. I said, I'd like to get a driver's license. I went and got me a license. About a month later, we're on guard duty, and I'm driving the sergeant of the guard, and it's raining like cats and dogs. I look out there's that guy standing in the rain in a poncho that told me not to get a license. I'm like, well, I'm nice and dry, and you're out here getting wet. So it paid to get a license.
Yeah.
But getting back to that, the second tour in Somalia, after they shot the helicopter down, things got really rough over there, and it was just dangerous to go over there. It was just...
I've heard from you're young, but I heard from some of them that some of the people were kind of leery, afraid to talk to you for fear they're going to be reprimanded,
sure.
by their own.
Oh, sure.
I know that happened in Vietnam. We heard Lance Hartman talk about that on the Mekong. He was also Navy, so you've been 2 tours in Somalia?
2 tours in Somalia, yep. But and I don't regret going in the military. I think Baker High School prepared me for what the world was going to teach me. A lot of people don't realize we were only there for like 4 years. But in those 4 years, when you left there, you were an adult. You're ready to face the world. But the teachers and the faculty there, the other students, they kind of molded you to be ready for the world.
Well, I'll tell you, Jim and I, we had Oscar P. Bowles for vice president. Well, right here in this room, I interviewed Mr. Bowles. He was just as bad as we were, and he went to airborne school. He was a paratrooper, and then when we did his story, while he went through, they went from here to Chicago to somewhere in the San Francisco Lake. They got a boat. They had to go to Burma and all. So we had people that were veterans. Yeah, we had people that were veterans, and they taught us, that right there. And I think in those years they didn't have no shortage of soldiers.
No. Well, because people were volunteering to go. People, exactly. Young men, even like you. What age did you say you were? 17-year-old guys volunteering to go. That was the thing to do back then, was to be patriotic and serve your country. But today, times have changed. Times are different today, and I don't think as many young people want to do it as much as we did.
When I told my dad, December of 1961, I told my mom first. And she started crying. Of course, I can understand now why, because there was the Second War and Korea War. And when my dad came, and my dad was Post Sergeant Major, and he says, why is she crying? I took a deep breath. I said, Dad, I told her I joined the Army. He says, you what? You joined the Army that's going down the drain? boy, he knew something back then that we didn't know. But but I'll tell you what, I'd do it again.
Oh, sure. Wow.
So, David, how long were you in the service?
20 years. I retired.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I spent my 20 years.
My.
And you know what? It was funny. I spent most of my time, I was fortunate enough to be stationed at Fort Benning. If I wasn't overseas, I was kind of like home based at Fort Benning. So I spent a lot of time at what's Fort Moore now, but it was Fort Benning at the time.
It'll always be Fort Benning to us.
It's always going to be.
And I'm sure the people that are watching us, I agree with us. It'll always be Fort Benning to us.
Nothing against Hal Moore because it was named in honor of him. Not take nothing away from him because he was a great hero, but I don't think the post needed to change.
I tell you what, some of the people that I met that served under General Moore, they said if he was alive, he would decline that.
Oh, I think so too. His family accepted it because, and posthumously, it's an honor to pay respect to your father. But had he been alive, I don't think he would have agreed to that.
He wouldn't have. So then, when you were here at Benning, who were you still in communication?
Yes, I always was in communication. Well, not every job but I was technically in communications until the last job before I retired. I was at RNU NCO at Soldiers Plaza, which is no longer there anymore, where you used to go get your ID cards and all that. They call it Splinter Village.
Oh, my Lord.
I was in charge of all those buildings over there.
Listen, I have friends of mine that live in Splinter Village. They back in our times.
Right. Originally it was built for temporary housing.
Right, that's exactly right.
And then it just stayed there so long that at one time some Ranger units were living in there. There was all kind of different designated units living there. And right
behind Springer Village, they got there on the side there's some Rangers.
Rangers, right. Yeah.
Well, the Army took good care of us because then we joined NRA and we go over there every on the weekends and summertime. We're shooting 22 rifles all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so, when I got the basic training, I knew how to shoot a rifle. Yeah. And in my basic training, we had one guy named Marlette from the mountains of Tennessee, and he was just like Sergeant Alvin York.
Yep.
He was a dead shot. Right. And boy, we're getting away from it. We all get together and we think it's stories, they were good stories.
Well, that's what we'll have to do is just get a bunch of us veterans together and share our stories together with other people.
Yeah. Oh, because I tell you what, veterans just got a story.
Every veteran.
Some of them are sad, I had a lady at the last luncheon tell me, I was asking, y'all watching the videos? She says, well, I only seen one and I started crying and I couldn't watch any more. And I thought, I didn't think nothing of it. I thought she was talking about Donald Ray Johnston.
Right.
And she says, well, whose video were you watching? Yours? What's so bad about mine? But anyway, it was the part where we were jumping out of planes.
Yeah.
She seen that and it hit her.
Yeah.
That's what some of our guys were doing,
And every veteran has got a different story of something that might have happened to him along the way, or something he might have seen in the military that touched his heart. And I know for me, I've seen things that touched my heart. And other soldiers that got hurt, it killed. It's hard to accept that sometimes, but you have to.
I can relate to that in this respect. When Ranger Jones and I were doing the veterans, I had one fellow that was in the second landing in Normandy, and he was just telling us a story. He had a track, and they opened the front of the ship up, and he went down. And when the track got into the sand, he started crying. And I asked him, "Why are you crying?" He says he couldn't believe so many dead bodies laying on the ground. But you know what? After that, he was more outgoing. He told that to somebody in his own level. I would never be in the level they were, but anyway.
But I know every time I would go on a deployment and come back, and you would have, the band playing and everything, and that American flag. Oh. It just touches your heart, It just makes you feel.
When you're one way a step from dying, and you come in the harbor and you see that Statue of Liberty and that flag.
Makes you proud to be an American, proud that you did what you did for your country.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's only one other flag that I put that one next to.
That's your Puerto Rican flag?
No.
No?
Well, that'd be close to it.
Okay.
That's Screaming Eagle flag.
Oh, okay.
I know not everybody can belong to the 101st Airborne. But I tell you what.
Your second best ended up joining the 82nd. So.
Yeah, that's second, number 2, you know.
That's why it's 82nd.
That's right.
Not 101st.
That's not me saying, that's him saying it right there.
Well, I was neither one of them. I was afraid to jump out of planes.
He recognized the truth, who's 1 and 2, you know. I'll tell you what, you know, the 101st and the 82nd, they'll have that rivalry. And one thing I want to share with y'all, whenever I see a young recruit, I go shake his hand. Yeah. And I say, thank you for serving our country. I say, I'm a veteran too. And then I had one young man, he recognized my Eagle hat. I think it was this hat that I had. And then he says, sir, I'm going to Fort Campbell. And you know, and I told that young man, and I was dead serious. I said, you know, the 101st had a reputation back in World War II. And they kept it up. And the guys before me kept it up, I kept it up, and son, you keep it up. And that boy looked like his chest was going to blow up. You know, it's we had it, I mean, you know, and the guys from the 82nd, the same way. As a matter of fact, I had a fellow tell me he was going to the 82nd. I said, I'm going to tell you what, but the 82nd, they got a tradition just like the 101st Airborne. Right. You got to keep that tradition up.
Oh, sure.
And I'm not going to forget about my dear friends in the Marine Corps. They got a tradition too. And the Navy and all of them. You know, when time gets rough, you couldn't ask for no better guys.
If a guy didn't have a nickel in his pocket, 82nd Airborne, he owed you a beer.
I can tell you some stories, but anyway, you know. David, what more would you like to share with us? I mean, so you were 20 years in the service.
Yep.
And you retired, I guess, at Fort Benning?
Yes, sir, Fort Benning, yeah.
Yeah. What rank were you when you retired?
E6.
E6?
And that's because I didn't go to the school. You know, I got complacent toward the end, and I should have went to some schools.
I know.
But I seen, you know, that's when the Gulf War was just kicking off as I was getting ready to retire, and I didn't want to stay any longer. I said, you know, I've done my time. I want to go ahead and retire. And looking back on it, I kind of wish now I would have stayed. But I didn't go to the schools I needed to progress further in the military.
When I was into, they weren't, well, when I was in, you didn't have to apply for school.
Right.
You got volunteer for it. I still remember the day there was 3 of us that played football for my company, for Fort Campbell. And boy, we won everything. In those days, they had the Missile Bowl. That was the best armed forces team, you know. And we won that year. And our general, he gave us an extra month off, you know. And my company commander and my first, they couldn't stand, you know, guys to play sport because we was getting over it, you know. So anyway, when we got back, first formation, first sergeant. When I call your last name, all you people that volunteer for Ranger School, when I call your last name, step behind me. And he called my friends, Fred Huber. And I thought, well, I didn't know he wanted to be a lifer. And then Dick Selowitz. I said, well, I didn't know. Then Nazario. I said, oh boy. And I said, First Sergeant, I don't remember volunteering for Ranger School. Neither one of us do. He said, well, since y'all so athletically inclined, I figured y'all would represent us best. And boy, my guys, they were cursing him under their breath. And I said, listen, Ranger School ain't that bad. I said, so we come here, you know. And the first week, they're going to smoke you.
Oh, yeah.
You know. And back in those days, Ranger School, and you guys that are Rangers love this, in those days, they didn't have regular cadre. They had temporary cadre from all units, as long as they were Ranger qualified. From the 10th, from the 82nd, from Fort Campbell, because we had one of them in the Florida part, Camp Ruddy. Anyway, the first week, this little bitty E5 from the 82nd, he just smoking us. Then he gets right in your face. He says, why don't you quit this? You can just go back. You don't have to do this. And I said, I've been known to have a smart mouth at the time. And I said, Sergeant, if the 82nd can do it, I ain't got nothing to worry about. And me and the sergeant, boy, at the end, when they gave my tab, you know what? We were one then. We were all one.
You know, I had the honor to, years ago, a buddy of mine in Savannah, he was a ranger also, but we went to a flea market one day, and we was talking to this guy selling guitars there, and he goes, "You know who that guy is, don't you?" I'm like, "No." He goes, "That's Phil BHS," and I'm like, it didn't ring a bell to me. He goes, "You know the best ranger competition? The very first people to ever win it, he was a sergeant major of the Ranger Battalion at the time, and him and another guy won it together. He's the very first recipient of the Best Ranger Award." I'm like, wow. But the guy was so humble. I mean, he was, "Oh no, that wasn't me. That was my brother." You know, but he was just so humble. No, I wasn't in the Army. It was my brother. But it was always him. He just, you know.
Usually your big mouth in the service is the smallest one.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're thinking is 6 foot. Another quick story. Right when we got through with airborne school, and I couldn't quit airborne school. There's no way I could quit airborne school. I started to quit airborne school my second week. They normally get rid of them the first week.
First week, yeah.
Just so happened that my dad was a post sergeant major, running around the towers, and there's a parade stand. There's my dad, my girlfriend's dad. I can't quit. I gotta go. But anyway, there was somebody put out a rumor that once you make it to airborne school, you can whip any 5 guys at one time. That night, some guys went to Nazario Park in Phoenix City. Guess what? They got whooped. and I remember the next day we were leaving in buses to Fort Campbell, Fort Bragg, and what have you. And we seen this one guy all black eye, and he said, "Whoever said a paratrooper can whip 5 guys, lie." I'll tell you. David, can you add any more to you?
Well, not much more than, I didn't really have a spectacular career in the military. I didn't do a lot of heroic things, but I did a lot of things for humanity, and I always tried to be a good soldier and a good to other people and a good steward and I always tried to represent Baker High School in a positive way, and I still do.
You know what?
To this day.
It's funny that you say that. Some of our friends that were veterans, they're proud of Baker High School.
Oh yeah.
You know, we respect that school.
Oh yeah.
We respect it, and I don't want to get on this bandwagon, but I'll tell you what, we had teachers that cared about us.
They did. Everyone
cared about us.
They cared about you.
And now we got a Walmart sitting right where it's sat right there. You know, and we had some of your classmates, Colby Mosier.
Yeah.
Colby went to the FBI, but he got into investing properties. He asked to buy Baker High School. They would not sell it to him.
Really? Wow.
Because I think they knew they was going to buy it to Walmart.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But Colby we was going to change that into a senior citizens home. I think Central High in Phoenix City. I think it's a senior citizen area.
Yeah, it's like a community center.
Yeah. And that's what we was going to do. And that's sad.
Yeah.
I mean that here I go again. That building is a historical building. It was the history. It was named by the Secretary of Defense.
That's right.
Newton Baker.
That's right.
And you know, I'm sure that he's smiling with all of us. He's proud that we did represent him well. David, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about David. We met here a while back, and he brought his talents to really enlighten us with video. He does a great job. He has more to it. Talk about professional. This man here is professional.
Yeah. But I want to give honor to a person that actually taught me. I don't know if you know John Schultz, Mr. Schultz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was a teacher at Eddy Junior High School when the year I got put back, that my father put me back because I was a troubled child. He put me in. I got assigned to Mr. Schultz, and Mr. Schultz had a class, CVAE. I forget what the acronym stood for, but he taught a little bit of horticulture and engine repair and just different things. And photography was one of his classes that he taught, and I learned everything from him. I learned a lot from him, I should say, but he sparked my interest in photography. And throughout the Army I took pictures of stuff, but never seriously till I got out of the Army, and I actually got to do a video for him when he was doing bonsai trees, and he lost his voice. Remember when he had throat cancer and he lost his voice? So I went up to, my wife and I went to Rome, Georgia, and filmed him putting together a bonsai plant. And that was the proudest moment of my life, was to be able to give back to a teacher that taught me. Strange twist of fate. I didn't really realize that when I was doing the video for Mr. Hayes, just didn't dawn on me that until I got home and did the editing, that he was, when I said about doing something for a teacher, he was actually my 6th grade teacher. Right after he had gotten out of the Navy, he became a teacher, and he was my 6th grade teacher. But over the years, I just forgotten and didn't put 2 and 2 together until I got home. But at least I was able to do that for him, which makes me feel even better. That he was my teacher and I was able to give back for him. That made me feel good to be able to do that for him.
And I can relate to that with some, not teachers, but when I learned to be an electrician, I had some old Italians and Germans and one Hungarian, and teaching me, and I used to give them a hard time. Because I was younger. I said, "Oh, you old guys, you can do it." And they said, "Ish, one of these days you're going to get old." And you know what? I could see them looking down at me, and I said, "What do we tell you?"
Yeah.
And they were all veterans on top of that. But anyway, David, thanks you so much, guys.
You're welcome.
This has been great. This has been great. And folks, I hope you enjoy this chit chat we're having right here. We could stay here and tell stories all day long, I'm sure. And just like I'm sure that you're thinking about some story that you have that you would like to share with us too. So listen, all you guys, when we get in touch with you, please volunteer. I got several people that interested and want to be interviewed. I'm looking forward to some of the other Navy guys. I'm looking to one Navy guy. He had 116 missions over North Vietnam at class of 64. And they're interesting stories. So folks, thank you, and until the next time, we'll see you then. Take care.
One last thing. Don't feel bad if you forget things, because that's just human. We forget. We probably forgot more stuff between us that you should know, but we just forgot to tell you. So don't feel bad about forgetting things.
I did it in the beginning. I called Jim Hayes. I called him Jim Phillips or something like that.
Jim Davis. You called him Jim Davis.
Jim Davis. Oh God.
He was on your mind. That's why.
Oh God. Oh, I shouldn't even say that. Yeah. Thank you, folks. See y'all later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Was home when you left. You're right. The dog was home when you left. You're right. The cat was home when you left. You're right. The fish was home when you left. You're right. Your mommy, your daddy, your brother, your sister, the dog, the cat, the fish was home when you left. You're right.